Okay, so in today's class, we will be looking at completion questions. So for these questions, they will give you a passage and give you some questions that are based on the passage. For example, if you take a look at what we have on the screen right now, this is a passage, all right, this is a passage, and these are questions that are based on the passage. So what they want you to do is that you should complete the questions because the questions will contain gaps. And the gaps are an indication that there's something missing. Now, for example, you take a look at this question when it says, in an emergency, tell a letter from the office or dash. So that means there's something missing here, but whatever is missing in this question is in the passage. So what you have to do is to go to the passage, go and look for what is missing, figure it out, and come and use it to complete the sentence. So that means what you are doing is that you are making something that is incomplete to become complete. And that's why we call it completion question. It's something incomplete to become complete. All right. So that's what you're doing. So that means for this question two that says, for example, that signal for evacuation will normally be server dash. There's something here, and so you have to go to the passage, look for that which is missing, and come and use it to complete the gap. So basically, that's what you're doing here. That is the tax requirement of completion questions. Because you remember, I told you, I said, as we discuss each question type, there are three things that we need to talk about. I said we will have to talk about the task requirement of the question. All right, task requirement of the question. All right, so that's the first one. Part two, we'll talk about the strategies. We'll discuss the strategies for the question. Part three, we'll also practice. All right, so these are the things, all right, that you have to do when you are dealing with questions like this. So we'll discuss the task requirements, we'll discuss the strategies, then we'll practice also. So what I just finished explaining to you as to what this question wants to do, that is your task requirement or completion questions. So right now, let's delve into the discussion or the strategies for completion questions. So when you are faced with a question like this, what do you do? What are the steps you take to be able to successfully answer a question like this? And so these are the steps. So number one is to interpret the title of the passage. All right. So dealing with completion questions, the first thing that you've got to do is to interpret the title of the passage. Now, what in the world does that mean? Now, what that means is that you go to the word passage and you read this title, all right, the heading and the subheading, and from there you want to make some sense of the passage. From there, you want to figure out what the passage is dealing with, all right, from its title. Now, let's make that practical. In the case of this one, this is the passage. It says emergency procedures, all right, or then you have excuse me, please. So here you have emergency procedures, then procedures for evacuation. So as you read each of these headings and subheadings, you want to interpret them. You want to ask yourself that from the title of this passage, what is the passage about? So let's start with emergency procedures. Now, what is the meaning of emergency? What's an emergency?
Emergency.
What's an emergency?
Emergency that unexpected something that you have to act on.
Exactly. Exactly. You are correct. So when you talk about an emergency, you mean an unexpected occurrence that requires urgent attention. That's what an emergency is. It's an unexpected occurrence and it requires urgent attention. All right. Then what's the meaning of procedure? What is the meaning of procedure?
Procedure. That means the step you take.
Exactly. Steps you take in doing something. Steps involved in how something is accomplished. Okay, so if you put everything together, now let's go to the next one. Here it says procedure for evacuation. Now we know already what the meaning of procedure is.
Yes.
Let's talk about evacuation. What the meaning of evacuation? What does it mean to
Evacuation.
evacuate? Yes, what does
That
it mean
means
to evacuate?
evacuate. That means to is it delete or to can I use delete or to
All right, so
leave
it means to remove people or things
or
from a
remove?
place.
Yes.
That's evacuate. To remove people or to remove things from a place. That's the
Okay.
meaning of what evacuate. So here it
Evacuation.
says
Yes.
emergency procedure for evacuation. So if you put everything together, the idea that you will get is that this person will tell you the steps that you take to remove people from a place in times of emergency. If you're
Yes.
having something like probably an earthquake or flood or fire incident, what are the steps that you take to remove people from this scene of emergency? So that's what this passage will tell us about. And so
Okay.
we got that idea from interpreting what the title of the passage is. And that's the first step you take when you are dealing with a question like this. So you read the title of the passage, and from that title, try to get a peek into
Interpret.
the passage as it were, and have an idea of what the main idea of the passage is. So you can get that from the title. So that's the first step. So step number
Okay.
2 is that you should read the instruction. You should read the instruction and note how many words you are supposed to write. So you read the instruction and note how many words you are supposed to write. All right. So you read
Okay.
instruction and you note how many words you are supposed to write. Now, what that simply means is this: or there will always be an instruction that will accompany completion questions, and that instruction will always let you know how many words you're supposed to write in response to the question. Now, in the case of this question, it says no more than 3 words from the test for each. It says choose no more than 3 words from the test for each answer. I choose no more than 3 words from the test for each answer. So that's what it says here. Now, I
Yes.
must say that it's vitally important for you to adhere to the instruction. It's of utmost importance. And the reason for that
Okay.
is if you violate the instruction, all right,
Okay.
if you violate the instruction, even if you are right, they will mark you wrong. And let me say that
Okay.
again, I will explain it. If you violate the instructions for this question, even if you are right, they will mark you wrong. And what in the world does that mean? Let me tell you. You know, in this question, they said in an emergency, they will or dash, and we've been told to write no more than 3 words. Now, let's assume
Okay.
that the answer to the first question, let's assume, all right, for a moment, that the answer to the first question is very tall man. All right, so let's assume that these are the answers. Very tall man. Then how many words are here? How many
Three.
words do you have in very
Three
tall?
ways.
All right, so you have
Three.
3 words in very tall man. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, so now, um, let's now assume that you, all right, went ahead and you wrote a very tall man as the answer to question 1, and the A is actually in the passage. Now remember, the actual answer is what? Very tall man, 3 words. But you
Yes.
added A, so you wrote a very tall man, but the A that you included is actually lifted from the passage as well. Are you aware they will mark it wrong? Yes, they
Yes.
will. They will because you've gone beyond the stipulated number of words. So
Yes.
they said you should write no more than 3 words.
Yes.
You went ahead to write 4 words, and that would be a
Okay.
problem. All right.
Okay.
So that's why it's vitally important for you to read the instruction and always ensure that you adhere to it. But still on
Okay.
the instruction, I should add that there are 3 ways the instructions come in the examination. There are three
Okay.
ways the instructions come. Now, there are times that they will say choose no more than 3 words from the test for each answer. There are times when they will say choose no more than 2 words from the test for each answer. And there are times that they will say choose 1 word from the test for each answer. Now, have this in mind. If they say choose no more than 3 words from the test for each answer, that doesn't mean you have to write exactly 3 words. It doesn't mean so at all. So if
Okay.
they say choose no more than 3 words, fine, you can write 3 words. You can even write 2. You can even write 1, and you may be correct. So what matters is that you shouldn't go beyond the stipulated number of words. Don't go beyond the 3 words. You can write below it, but you cannot write above it.
Okay.
All right. So that doesn't mean you should always strive for exactly 3 words, because the answers to these questions will not be exact all of the time.
Okay.
All right. And then of course, if they say 2 words, that doesn't mean you have to write 2 words every time. You can write 2 words and be correct. You can write 1 word also and be correct, but don't just write more than 2. And then of course, if they say you should write 1 word only, you have to write only 1 word. But have it at the back of your mind that you can write the exact number of words they said you should write, but you don't always have to write that exact number of words. You can write below it. All right. So there are times that you can write 2 words. So there are times that you can write 2 words. This is no more than 3. You can even write 1. So that's just that. When they say choose no more than 2 words, you can write 1 sometimes. You can write 2 sometimes. I believe it's clear.
It's clear, sir.
All right, beautiful. All right, so that's that. That's step number 2. So you read the instruction and you note how many words you're supposed to write.
Right.
So let's go to number 3. So number 3, this is a step. Read the first question. Read the first question. And note the keywords in it. Okay. So you read the instruction and you read the first question, and note the keywords in the question.
Okay. The keywords in the question.
In dealing with a question like this, it isn't the passage that you read first. It is the question that you read first. And you don't read all of the questions at a stretch. You read the questions one after the other. So you read the first question. Now let's take a look at what the first question in this case is. The first question here is that in an emergency, a teacher will either phone the office or dash. All right, we'll either phone the office or dash. You know, here you take note of what the keywords in the questions are. And when we say keywords, we mean words that have inherent meanings. Now, it's not every English word that has a meaning. I mean, for example, I can ask you, I did that already earlier. Oh my goodness, that's what is the meaning of emergency? I can ask you that. You can tell me what an example is. I can ask you that, what is the meaning of prefect? You can tell me what it means. I can ask you that, what's the meaning of phone? You can also tell me what that means. But if I ask you that, what is of in, you wouldn't be able to say anything. If I ask you that, what is the meaning of an, you also will not be able to say anything. And that's because these words, they don't have any inherent meaning. They are called function words in English. So they really do not have any meanings. So when I say keywords in this discussion, I mean words that have inherent meanings, words that convey meanings. And so in the case of this question, the keywords in this question would be emergency number 1, teacher number 2, phone number 3,
office. Yes.
Exactly. And so this will be the keywords in the question. But they are words that have inherent meanings, that convey meaning. So when you come across any of these words, you should take notes of them by way of underlining them. Of course, these are on the screen right now, and so you cannot underline them, but just know them. But in case you are doing any practice on your own, form a habit of underlining keywords, especially when you are doing it on the house. All right. So you read the question and you take note of the keywords in the question. Then the first step is that you scan the passage. You scan the passage for the keywords, or especially their synonyms. Especially their synonyms and paraphrases. Okay, so I said you scan the passage for the keywords, or especially their synonyms and paraphrases. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that. Now, in setting these questions, what they do really first they will write the passage. Then after writing the passage, the next thing they will do is to write the question. But in writing the questions, what they will do is that they will write some words in this question. They will write some words, and then, I mean, all the words in the question, all the words in the question are lifted from the passage. So every word you can see with this is in the passage. I'm telling you now. This in you see in this question is in the passage. The emergency you see in the question is in the passage. The teacher in this question is in the passage. But then, why lifting words from this passage, they will intentionally, deliberately leave out some words. All right, in the question. So I'm saying that all the words you see in this question one are lifted from the passage. But in the course of lifting these words from the passage, there are some other words that are in this passage that they will deliberately omit or leave out in the course of lifting these ones. And so those ones that they've left out intentionally, those ones that they've deliberately dropped, they are the ones that we are looking for to complete the chapter. So they lifted in from the passage, lifted emergency, lifted in, lifted child, lifted will, either phone, office, and while lifting them, there's something else that should be here, some other words, but those words have been deliberately left out. So those are the ones that you need to figure out. But to be able to figure out these words, you have to move from the known to the unknown. So that means you have to use the words that you can see in the question to track down the ones that have been deliberately omitted in the passage. So you go to the passage and go and look for emergency, you go and look for teacher, you go and look for phone, you go and look for office, because that is what will let you know what is missing. But remember, I said something here. I said scan the passage. Now, I didn't say read the passage. I said scan the passage, because when you scan, you are looking for something definite, something specific, something in particular. So you are not reading just to understand. You are reading to locate a specific, definite piece of information, which in this case is a keyword that you've already underlined. Okay, but then the real danger here, the real problem is that these keywords in the question that you underline, you most likely will not come across them in the passage, most likely. But instead, what you will come across are the synonyms and paraphrases of these words. So I'm saying that you may not come across, or let's say, emergency in the passage. You may not come across teacher in the passage. You may not see phone in the passage. You may not see office in the passage. What you mostly see in the passage are some other expressions, some other words that mean the same thing as these words. So they are what you come across. And so don't go to the passage having your mind fixed on emergency and say emergency. Well, you may, but you most likely will not. So don't say, oh, teacher, where's teacher? Where you may see teacher, but you most likely will not see it. But even if you don't see them, you will see some other words that mean the same thing as them. And these are what we call synonyms and paraphrases. So you bear in mind that you most likely will come across the synonyms and paraphrases of the keywords in the question. So that's what you do. And so the next thing that you've got to do, all right, so the next thing that you've got to do is that now like from what I have said, checking for the keywords in what question and comparing it with their counterparts in the passage should take you to what is missing. All right, so this should let you know what is missing. This should take you to what is missing. Then the fifth and final step is that you should choose the word or words, as the case may be. At times it's only one word, sometimes it's more than one. Choose a word or words that can grammatically and semantically complete the sentence. So choose a word or words that can grammatically and semantically complete the sentence. So what does that mean? Now, what I mean is that even if you have found what is missing, it's not just anything that you write. All right, even when you find what is missing, okay, it's not everything that you feel like writing that you write. So instead, you should pick the word or words that can correctly complete the sentence. And by that I mean words that in the context of the sentence, when you insert it, it will be grammatically correct. And in the context of the question, when you insert it, it will be semantically sound. So you locate them. So when you find them, this is the answer. Now let me make that practical, okay? Let's make that practical a little bit. Now take a look at this question here. Here they said, in an emergency, a teacher will let out from the office or dash. So let's go to the passage and see what the answer to the question might be. So here is the passage, and it says this applies to all persons on the school campus. All right. Or in cases of emergency. Now you will agree with me that is in an emergency that we got here. That's in cases of emergency. So you have in an emergency, in cases of emergency. Okay, let's go back. Say G fire. Find the nearest teacher. So the teacher that you can see here, that's the same teacher that you can see that we saw earlier in the question. Okay, that means we are finding them. Okay, nearest teacher who will send a messenger at full speed to the office or inform the office via phone. This inform the office via phone, that is the phone, the office that you got here. All right, inform the office via phone, that is the phone, the office. All right, phone the office, that's inform the office via phone. All right, so from this, we know what is missing, because there are two things we are told in this passage that a teacher will do in terms of emergency, two things. And these two things are this: number one, to send a messenger at full speed to the office, and number two, to inform the office via phone. So these are the two things according to the passage that the teacher would do in terms of emergency. Number one, send a messenger at full speed to the office. Number two, inform the office via phone. But this inform the office via phone has been paraphrased in the question as phone the office. All right, so that means that what's missing here is the second thing a teacher will do in times of emergency, which is what? Send a messenger at full speed to the office. So ideally speaking, the answer to this question should be send a messenger at full speed to the office. But the only problem is we cannot write this as the answer to the question, simply because it's more than the stipulated number of words. We are told to write no more than 3 words, and here there are 9 words. So we cannot write this. So now what do? Here we will have to choose from these 9 words the ones that can grammatically and semantically complete the sentence. That means the English will be correct and it will make sense. That means when we insert these words in the context of this question, it should not violate any rule of English grammar. All right, and then the sentence should also make sense. And so let's do some practicals. So let's assume, for example, that we chose to pick to the office as the answer to this question, to the office. Now let's insert it to the office in this context. In an emergency, a teacher will either from the office or to the office. Now you realize that expression to the office doesn't make sense in this context. It doesn't make grammatical sense. And so for that reason, we can say that, oh, this can be the answer to the question. Or this just cannot be correct. All right. So let's try another one. Let's assume we'll pick or at full speed, all right, as our answer. So let's insert it and see how it works out. So it will then read, in an emergency, a teacher will either from the office or at full speed. That doesn't still make sense. All right. So, but then if we pick the last one, send a messenger, that's the last one, send a messenger. So let's read it together and see how it flows. So here you have in an emergency, a teacher will either from the office or send a messenger. So that makes sense. So in the context of this question, send a messenger can work. So we now have to write send a messenger as the answer to the question. We'll move on to the next question. Okay. And so finally, before we go into the practical sections, let me say that in a question like this, it's very easy for you to be wrong and you will think you are correct. You are wrong, but you will think you are correct. All right, it's very, very easy. But there are 3 checks you can put on yourself that can assure you of your correctness. So the first thing is you should be aware of proximity. All right, now you should be mindful of proximity in things like this. And what do I mean by by proximity. Here will mean that whatever you are choosing as the answer to a question must be surrounded by the synonyms or the keywords in the question. Let me say that again. Whatever you want to choose as the answer to any particular question must and should be surrounded by the synonyms or the keywords in the question. So it means that the synonyms or the keywords in the question should be close to it. What do I mean? Now, here for question 1, we pick send a messenger as the answer to this question. Out of all the words that we got in this passage, we are picking send a messenger as the answer. How can we be sure that we are correct? Well, we can be sure because here we've obeyed the rule of proximity. And that means that, in the question, a key word in the question is what? Emergency. All right. Then we saw emergency close to the send a messenger. It's in proximity to it. Then another keyword in the question is what? Teacher. And we can see it here close to the sending messenger. And another keyword in the question is inform the office you have phone the office, which is paraphrased as what? Inform the office you have phone. And that's again is close to the sending messenger. So we can find the synonyms of the keywords in the question close to the sending messenger, so we can have the assurance that it is correct. Now, let's assume for a moment that we chose to pick an emergency evacuation as the answer to this question, an emergency evacuation. Now, we should know that we are wrong because we can't find the synonyms or the keywords in the question in this environment. Now, for example, there's teacher, all right, in the question. There's teacher here. We cannot find teacher close to the emergency evacuation. Now, another keyword in the question is phone the office. We read this environment, we can't find anything like phone the office. So that should be a red flag. So ensure that whatever you want to choose as the answer to a question, I repeat, is surrounded by the synonyms of the keywords in the question. That's number 1. Then number 2, be mindful of grammaticality. That means after you've been able to insert, all right, whatever you want to insert in the gap, it should be grammatically correct. That means it shouldn't violate any rule of English grammar. Because if it does, you definitely are wrong. Now, the next thing that you've got to bear in mind is semanticity. All right, semanticity. So that means it should be semantically correct. And that means it should make sense. So in layman's words, I should say it should be sensible. All right, it should be what? Sensible. It should make sense. All right, because the English can be correct and it wouldn't make sense. The English can be correct and it wouldn't make sense. Now, for example, if I said something like my generator, my generator, all right, drinks fuel. All right. So here, the English is correct. Correct because we've used a noun that's singular, that's generator, with a singular verb. So generator is a singular noun, drinks is a singular verb, and so this has grammatical correctness. But this sentence doesn't make semantic sense simply because a generator cannot drink fuel. So because the word drink is used for animate entities, human beings, animals, they are the ones that drink. I want to drink water, for example. So I can say that as a human being, I can drink water. All right. So, but for an object like a generator, you shouldn't use the word drink for it. So instead, it's a word like consume you can use in this context. So whereas this sentence is grammatically correct, it's semantically wrong. It doesn't make sense. So it means then that before you choose any word or actually settle for any word or words as the answer to a question, ensure that you insert it in the gap in your mind and see that is grammatically correct in the context of usage. Then and only then can you have the confidence to choose it as the answer. All right. Is my explanation clear, please? You are muted. You can let me know whether it's clear or not. Is my explanation clear?